Pickled red onions are terrible, if you don't know how to make them properly, that is. So in this video, I'll share a perfectly balanced, crunchy, and slightly spicy version of pickled red onions that doesn't have that lingering, pungent aftertaste. Now there are a million different ways you could pickle red onions. The basic formula is sliced red onion, of course, some form of vinegar or other acidic liquid, and aromatic ingredients to add subtle flavor. But how you prepare those ingredients and the type of vinegar that you choose, and even how you slice your red onions, can impact the overall flavor in the end. So to land on this recipe, I created 5 different batches of pickled red onions, combining some various recommended techniques, and I learned a lot along the way. And in the end, I wound up with what I think is the perfect recipe. The biggest issue I had with batch number 1 was that pungent aftertaste, the kind that gets your coworkers to take a few steps back. Onions produce sulfur compounds when you cut them open, which are stinky. Now, I did try soaking the onions in hot water before pickling this batch, but it just wasn't enough to cut the pungency. The real solution here is to blanch the onions in boiling water for a brief period before you pickle them. This almost completely eliminates those volatile compounds, mellowing out the flavor of the onions. More on exactly how to do this without turning your onions into mush in just a bit. For the next 2 batches, I blanched the onions, which got rid of that pungency, but I wanted to experiment with different types of vinegar for a different flavor profile. With the first one, I used normal white vinegar. Here I tried apple cider vinegar and white wine vinegar for a different flavor profile. The apple cider vinegar had a pretty good taste, but I think the vinegar was a bit too strong. It was really biting. And the white wine vinegar was my least favorite overall. It had sort of a sweet fruitiness that I think didn't really complement the red onion. And the last 2 batches are where the magic really started to happen. With one, I went with apple cider vinegar again, but I diluted it with a bit of water to try to cut that bite down. And with the other batch, which was our unanimous winner, I went back to white vinegar with a bit of water and lime juice to finish it out in the end. So the winning recipe gives us a sweet and tangy onion flavor without that nasty aftertaste, an addictive crunchy texture, and a beautiful pink color. So now let's go through this recipe from start to finish. So this recipe is for a pint-sized jar. You could easily double or triple it though. For the ingredients, you'll need 2 medium red onions or 1 red onion that's the size of an asteroid. Yeah, I'm gonna do the big one. 1 to 2 habanero peppers. Now this is optional. This is where the spice comes from. You can leave it out if you want, but we're actually using a similar pepper that has a purple color. 1 cup of white distilled vinegar and a ½ cup of water, a teaspoon of fine sea salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and this again is optional. You can omit this entirely, but I like a bit of sweetness added to my red onions. A 1/4 teaspoon each of black peppercorn and yellow mustard seed, and the juice of 1 lime, which will go in at the end. So to start, you want to chop the onions and cut off either end. Slice it in half. This is a giga onion. Peel the outer layer, and then get rid of the core at the root end. Then we're gonna cut it root to stem or pole to pole, so lay it flat, and you kinda wanna angle your knife down towards the center of the onion as you go over the top, and nice thin slices. And you can sort of break these up, you get these nice fine thin slices. Now I'm gonna bring a large pot to a boil. While that's coming to a boil, I'm gonna add the black peppercorns and mustard seed to my jar. And I'm gonna cut the peppers in half and throw them into the bottom of the jar as well. Before you put the onions into the boiling water, set a timer for 75 seconds. You don't wanna go any longer than that. Otherwise, you risk the onions becoming mushy instead of nice and crunchy. Also, make sure you have a strainer ready that's big enough to handle all of the onions. And optional but recommended is to put them in an ice bath to further protect them from going mushy. I'm also gonna slice the lime in half. All right, so this is at a vigorous boil now. That's what you want. And I'm gonna add the onions in and start a timer for 75 seconds. It's a lot of onions. Make sure it's a big pot. Now, as these boil, I want you to stick your head over the pot and smell the fumes coming off of those onions. It doesn't smell like onions, it actually smells like sulfur. That's exactly what we want to get rid of. Now I'm gonna strain off the hot water, put them into an ice bath, and start preparing the brine. So back into an empty pot with the 1 cup of white vinegar, ½ cup of water, the salt and sugar, And I'm not putting the lime juice in with the brine just yet. I'm gonna wait until it's off the heat. So slowly bring that up to a simmer, stirring occasionally to dissolve the sugar and salt. While that comes up to temp, I'm gonna pack the onions into the jar. You can see they're a little more droopy, but they still will have plenty of crunch. So pack them in as tightly as you can, just push down. You could use a larger jar if your onion is especially massive like mine was. But if you pack pretty well, you should be able to fit quite a few onions in a relatively small jar here. Just make sure to leave maybe a ½ inch of headspace at the top. Once it starts to steam a little bit and the salt and sugar are dissolved, you can take it off of the heat and pour it right over the red onions. And we finally got this, which is gonna help prevent disaster. I don't know. I'm used to making messes, but I guess it's better not to. Oh, it's still a huge mess. Oh no. Okay, so after pouring the perfect amount of brine into your jar, filling it right to the brim, we're gonna add the juice of an entire lime. Doing this at the end after it's cooled off a little bit helps preserve that fresh lime taste. Throw a lid on it and give it a little shake to mix in that lime juice, get everything nice and coated, and then you want to leave this at room temperature to cool off before you throw it in the fridge. Now you'll notice these two are the same recipe, but this one has much pinker color. That will develop over the course of the next 24 hours or so, and you want to wait at least 24 hours before you eat these anyway, not just for the color, but so that the onions can actually pickle and those flavors and the heat from the peppers and the peppercorns can all infuse into the red onion. But thankfully, I made this batch ahead of time so I can taste this one today. Now, I wish I had some tacos so that I could use this properly. You don't normally just eat pickled red onions straight out of the jar, but today I'm gonna do exactly that. Beautiful light pink color. It almost looks like sea glass or something, but you can hear there's still plenty of crunch, the perfect level of bite. The white vinegar doesn't cut too much into the natural flavor of the onions. I think that's what you want here. You want that acidic bite, but you don't want the flavor of the vinegar to compete too much with the actual ingredients. There's a nice subtle spiciness, which is perfect for these. Again, you could omit those if you wanted, but you're watching Pepper Geek Eats after all. If you think you have a better recipe than ours here today, please leave it in the comments below. We're making pickled red onions all year long. It's one of those things we just like having in the fridge. You can throw them on sandwiches or tacos, pretty much anything. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. One red onion that's the size of a large grapefruit. One red onion that's the size of Scooby-Doo's stomach. One red onion that's the size of my big toe after I stubbed it in 6th grade.